Okay. All right. So we're here today on this great Friday afternoon with Ari Leeds, that's me, and Jari Salomaa from Valo. And me and Yari go way back to when Yari was leading product teams at Salesforce for Shield specifically. And I was at Cisco at the time, and we were doing fun things with transaction security. So today we're kind of going to talk about Salesforce and security and all that stuff. So we're really kind of going back to, I think, our roots where we really met. And we're going to nerd out a little bit on some Salesforce cybersecurity today. So Yari's back, and he's the CEO of Valo now, a Salesforce cybersecurity company. And so let's Yari, welcome, and let's have some fun.
Awesome. Great to see you. Happy Friday, Ari. And really, this will be like going down the memory lane. I remember vividly launching Salesforce Shield, looking for great partners to work with. And you at the time were at CloudLock, and then you got acquired by Cisco. And
Yeah.
I remember the product manager from Boston wanting to build best security to Salesforce. So how could I forget that?
Yeah, exactly. And we did some fun stuff there. And of course, Shield has become this, huge thing since. So it's not like cybersecurity's gone away. I'm still in the Salesforce space with my company, with LeedsSource, doing consulting. And of course, security is a big thing, but you've gone fully down the security hole with Salesforce now. So what's going on with Valo?
Yeah, so basically, for those who don't know me, my name is Jari Salomaa. I'm based in San Francisco. And like Ari mentioned, I used to be the platform security product lead at Salesforce and one of the founding PMs of Salesforce Shield. And now CEO, co-founder of Valo.ai. And we're building always on security observability for Salesforce. So this means there are a couple of key components, I think, into security on Salesforce. Understanding the configuration, how access control is built, how is permissions sharing, all the security policies implemented, and then how the actual application gets used, monitoring the logs, monitoring the apps, monitoring the AI to better understand how the system is running, and then are your employees, your Salesforce users running into obstacles? Are they using tools they perhaps shouldn't use? And how well-oiled machine you really have in your customer service or sales and whatever the use case on Salesforce you have.
Yeah, so like this stuff. I remember when I first turned on Valo, when I first took a look at this product, um, this connection graph that we see on screen right here really stood out to me, and I remember going in there and saying, this can't be my environment. I don't recognize these. And this is a guy who looks at Salesforce in detail every day, knows how to manage permissions and profiles. I'm living in this stuff, and then I turn on Valo and all these connections just illuminate on the screen, and I was a little bit embarrassed, to be honest, because I remember seeing a few things in there that was like, that should not be there. I remember seeing a this little connected app actually that an intern of mine installed, a productivity app to help them with a marketing campaign they were working on for me. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's in there. I had no idea it existed." And it was like, just a couple of minutes. I went, "Oh wow, I didn't." I thought it was going to be interesting, but I didn't realize I was going to learn anything. And so that kind of brings me to, why this is so relevant now, like what's going on with, we've heard about these hacks with connected apps happening in the ecosystem in the last couple of weeks. Some people may have heard about, Shiny Hunter and Scattered Spider. So I think Valo is, it's always been relevant, but now there's this extra spotlight on it. People, security tends to be one of those things that people don't want to think about until it's like scary. And for better or for worse, it's definitely getting a little bit scary. And Salesforce has been in this little bubble, and now people are realizing it has to be protected as well. So I wanted to kind of start by saying, well, first, could we tell everybody, a little bit about what a connected app actually is. And, um, you know, the word app is used very loosely in the Salesforce world. So can you educate us on like what a connected app actually is in the Salesforce environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually a variety of different types of ways to integrate with Salesforce. Salesforce is being built as a third-party friendly environment, API first, and it's meant to be a connected infrastructure to support your business. Whether you do digital signatures with DocuSign, or you're an admin or a developer and you're using Workbench, or tools to just verify whether the data job got completed. And now, of course, in the era of AI, you have AI agents, external tools, and they want to kind of use your user accounts to access data in Salesforce. So there's an app manager in Salesforce. There's really different levels to integrate with Salesforce to create system level apps, but then also use a technology called OAuth, and really connect applications through your own Salesforce credentials into Salesforce. And now within these cybersecurity campaigns, there's actually an OAuth device flow, a little bit similar way that if you ever logged into Netflix or HBO from a hotel and used the QR code and the 6 or 8 digit passcode to connect two systems to work with one another. And Salesforce, of course, has also, websites, name credentials, cross-org connectors, mobile apps. There's a lot of systems, a lot of technology that can connect to Salesforce externally. And that also makes it as powerful as it is. There's App Exchange, a huge gallery of fantastic apps that, is available for all of us in the ecosystem to use.
Yeah, and so I brought up these screenshots because, in Salesforce, I actually probably could have added a couple more, but there's typically like three areas you could go, and this is actually I think what makes it a little bit confusing is, um, when you go in, you can go to the manager, your app manager, right? And you see your Lightning apps, and then you see your connected apps, and they're all kind of mixed in. And that's one way to kind of find them. And then you can go into manage connected apps, which I took a screenshot of here. And then there's the connected apps OAuth usage screen. So you're kind of like, wait, why is this here, but it's not here? And so this is actually, people are learning is that these are the different types of connected apps. They're all the things you mentioned. They're all connected through OAuth. They're all connected through devices and through these OAuth flows. But then we have like the ones that you installed like on purpose into your environment, and then the ones that are using like somebody's credentials to make like a one-time connection. Um, and those are always going to get your OAuth usage. And I know with Valo, like you're getting the whole picture, but in Salesforce, you kind of have to be an expert to know, how to go in and out of these. Is there anything that,
Yeah.
Valo's doing to kind of, demystify, the having to know these menus really well?
Right. So like, let's be honest here, is that like Salesforce has like what, 2,000, 3,000 setup pages, and like,
Yeah.
we have reached the point that anyone knows them all, like, and I think only through experience of doing it you actually realize how it truly works. You can take all the
Yes.
trailheads you want, and I think I worked with you on some of the first ones. We're pushing out like Salesforce Shield trailhead modules were the first to come, and security, of course, fundamental importance. But so yeah, there's many places. I think we analyzed there's 16 different places in the setup menu,
Huh.
and when you're viewing data from Valo, we are collecting it like from a UI. So if you go into the UI, you got to do a lot of clicking, a lot of context switching, in different places, and truly know it. So that was kind of like an opportunity where we see that, I think apps and AI is going to be important. You need to audit them, you need to monitor them, you need to know how they're configured, and importantly, what they access. And I think that's another area I want to kind of like just get your thoughts on. I've talked to like probably 50 different customers, and quite many of them are not even using the free integration user licenses provided
Mm,
to customer
yeah.
to Salesforce customers. Instead, they just connect using their own accounts. And I think that tells me that, like, I think a lot of people just don't have the security education to know that what's the difference between a human user or human activity, the apps, and and channeling everything through the same user account makes it so much harder to audit or differentiate between
Yeah.
who is Yari, or who is Yari's app, and what's the difference between an action, especially if you have admin privileges or high privileges in the application to perform changes. And and
Yeah.
these scenarios, when we think about cyber criminals, extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time in the consulting world for sure. You'll have the CEO will have that system admin credential because maybe they were the first person to ever, set up Salesforce or order it, and so every app is running through that
Yes.
credential, and we go, oh my gosh. Or
Oh, wow.
especially, it's like or a director of IT, and then that guy leaves and you can't deactivate that user because it is just this pin that if you pull it, everything's going to break. But it's also this this big weak spot, because if that one account is compromised, it's just a leak into every single other app. So yeah, we do have to move people into those dedicated integration users, and they usually are interested in doing it once they learn what they're all about and they understand that they exist. And Salesforce kind of quietly rolled those out, and people in the industry like me and we kind of knew to talk to the customers about it, but most people didn't really know that it existed. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of value in knowing that. And you mentioned that you're pulling like 16 different pages together, and I'm not really surprised. I didn't know it was
Mm.
16 into one, but I'm honestly not that surprised, because I'm in those pages every day. They can be second nature to me, but it can still take a lot of time and a lot of clicks to get something either really secured or doing troubleshooting really well. When you're trying to add all these things up with permissions, plus profiles, plus permission set groups, and who's assigned what, and it's a lot to know and a lot to work through.
Yeah,
Um,
and also when we think about, often, like, when we start thinking about licenses, they cost money. So we gotta
yeah,
be
that too.
careful about, like, and do we need a separate user account, maybe separate license? Where are we spending money on security now, and getting those details? But after working this spring and going through quite a few customers, and those scenarios where you have a CEO or VP of IT, having like 20 integrations on there, or 100 integrations going through their user account. All it takes is one compromise within one of those accounts, and then making the realization that the entire business can be in jeopardy when freezing the VP of IT's account, and then suddenly 100 systems stop working, and really need to get granular there.
Yeah, so with all that Salesforce does with, multi-factor authentication and auth2, and we have to have this client ID and the client secret and the token, and this is a little bit of API talk for anybody who understands how these OAuth flow works. Like, how did these shiny hunters and scatter spiders, how did they get in? Like, they had to have, you have to know something
Mhm.
usually, which the old school, username and password is you have to know something. And then multi-factor authentication came along. Now you have to know something and you have to have something, right? It's usually a verification code or something. So what was their angle of attack here? How did they get in?
Yeah,
How did they exploit connected apps?
great question. So I actually used to work for FireEye before joining
Ah,
Salesforce, and the security service division Mandiant is now part of Google, who released a pretty good write-up. If you look for Scattered Spider, Google, Mandiant, you can look up a great explanation on that.
yeah,
So these are some of the big brands,
yeah,
that we know publicly. The link to the SOCradar.io lists a huge number of organizations, goes through the basically the chain of events pretty well. But it all started pretty much that like these groups, to my knowledge, are relatively young individuals in UK and US
Hmm.
who speak fluent English, and they typically target these organizations, customer service teams. These are often outsourced teams. They might be working in a different country, and they pretend to be calling from an IT,
And why
requesting,
customer service?
because customer service often has high privileges. They can view all accounts, they can view cases, they have very high privileges to very broadly, access the
To the
Salesforce system.
data. Yeah. Yeah.
And many organizations haven't really gone through, profile permissions versus permission set thinking, that what are the essential, cases or information a customer service rep or analyst needs to access. And unfortunately then often these analysts can also perform system level configurations on their accounts and other accounts. So just hardening that layer overall. And of course then these cyber criminal groups, they know the source login, and you can actually then, they created a data loader connection. It creates and for some reason I can't explain, it uses this kind of like an IoT smart TV type of a
Right.
device authentication flow that generates a code. And over the phone, they basically then tell the customer service rep to just, hey, can you go to login.salesforce.com/setup/connect? And within that screen, you input that like 6 or 8 digit code, what
Yeah.
we can see here on the left.
Yeah, yeah. So we got some screenshots here, and what's so troubling about this is you're not inside, fakeforce.com here. It's not like one of these spoofed URLs where you go, wait a second, that doesn't look right. You're actually in Salesforce, you're in your own environment. It seems, completely safe. How could anything I'm doing in my own environment be unsafe? But
Mhm.
that's like the big I think that this must be why they went for it this way, because the other OAuth flows are,
And I think
you have to
also
be
that,
out on the app.
right, and I think also people tend to know that, like, if you get a MFA text message,
Right,
authentication request, you don't really share those codes. Now
right,
you're given a code and you're inputting that code into the environment. You're not really authenticating anywhere here.
right.
Even you are, but you're not putting your own credentials. And now if you have a very kind of compelling, fluent English speaker, telling you the right things, and knows your role, knows the organization, pretends to be from the IT and just needs to connect the tool. We can see the little orange banner that showed up 2 weeks ago into this page now as a kind of a warning people to being careful if someone over the phone is asking you something, that then just report a case.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting how suddenly that banner is there. But yeah, it's crazy how you could just be in your own environment, put in a code. You're not in a different app that's asking you for permission. It's not that classic flow that we get on our mobile phones all the time, or we're installing an app and it says, hey, do you want to connect to Salesforce? We're literally just putting a number into our own environment and something from the other end. Um, what we're not even realizing, we're just opening up this door. So I could see why people get fooled, but it's, you mentioned that phone call. I'll just go back to this for a sec. That social engineering is a critical aspect of this. Of course, on the upside, this doesn't work without that social engineering aspect, right? At
Oh,
least there's
100%. Yeah.
that piece that has to still
This is
happen.
not a vulnerability. This is
Right,
not a breach through, like, using, exploiting some backdoor kind of things.
right,
These guys are walking through the front door
right.
with chest up high, and pretending that, hey, we work here. We need to connect this tool, and people are falling for it because the permission and the layer of the open platform is just architected to be open, and it's very easy and simple to connect tools with Salesforce. The reason why we started Valo to begin with. to ensure that the design and the way that you know users are connecting apps can be better
So
and safe.
so like okay, great. So we have this orange banner. That's helps a little bit, little, education for the people.
That's right.
What else is, Salesforce doing going forward? And, does it matter? And like, what are the implications of it? Is it, let's just start with that, I guess. Is there anything else Salesforce is doing in addition to this orange banner? And what are the implications of what they're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like, those who've been on their email this week, on
Yeah.
Tuesday this week, Salesforce sent out this email. I got it like 6 in the morning, and it's pretty interesting that the main update is that there will be these restrictions of installing uninstalled connected apps, meaning that they are not in the org yet. They are something new. And this is now going in enforcement next week on Thursday, August 28th. And then beginning of September, maybe September 2nd, there's no clear date that I've yet to see uh, for existing orgs. And for that, Salesforce is introducing a permission. And the permission is called um, approve uninstalled connected apps. And there's also, I think, a legacy permission called use any API client. And those permissions then enable users to be able to install apps. And a second change Salesforce is doing is that, like, specifically for the data loader connected app, they are removing this OAuth 2.0 device flow authentication mechanism, which is, I think, a really sensible
Yeah.
thing to do. You can connect with different ways to Salesforce and just use more secure mechanisms that require a little bit of more work, and then that's also going to be applicable on September 2nd onwards.
Yeah, and just to clarify for anybody who doesn't understand you know, connected apps, we install them or do we just connect to them? And just for anybody who doesn't know, there's the connected apps that you get your client ID and client secret that you might get as part of a package with something that are actually kind of installed in your environment in that managed connected app space. But then you have the ones that are in that connected app OAuth usage area that don't appear in the other app areas. And those are the things like data loader, or if you use oh gosh, any of these one-off tools that just kind of,
Workbench.
yeah, exactly, Workbench, where they're not actually installed, they're just connected. And now they have a global client ID and client secret basically. And now Salesforce, well, they always had it there, I guess, but you can actually click that install button. Actually, I think we had it back on, yeah, it's right here next to the block button, of course, but you install it and then it moves over here and it becomes like one of your official installed connected apps. So I guess they're kind of pushing everybody to click that install button, and they're also making sure you need a permission to do that. Is that right?
That's 100% right. And now, of course, I think there's also additional recommendations from Salesforce that actually is work. We as admins, architects, Salesforce consultants, we got to go through. So Salesforce is recommending first to have a dialogue with the teams, to talk with the business, understand what are those apps that are in that global view that need to be approved, need to
Right.
be functionally there. And also, let's be frank, like, we don't really quite know if the current brands that we saw on the list of logos is the tip of the iceberg. Is that all of them? Probably not. I think there's quite a few that we haven't yet
Right.
heard of, maybe not public companies, but I think the call to action to actually cataloging your apps, understanding what they are, how they're configured, what they can do, what they actually do, what's their security score, where do they connect, what countries, look at the IP traffic. These are all kind of details that we envisioned are really important for organizations to know in order to secure app connections in Salesforce.
Mm,
And I think then comes the second phase of actually thinking about that permission. So now you have a permission allowing employees, managers, department leads, other admins, consultants who can install apps, who should have that privilege. And then when you're doing that, how do you know you're not installing unauthorized,
sure.
unwanted, malicious, rogue apps?
Right.
So,
That's right.
so building that better process of ensuring that those apps that then the permission gives you are still going to be nice and clean. They are from who they claim to be. And as we know
Right.
in Salesforce, you can go and create a connected app, and I can call it like,
Yeah.
Salesforce if I want to. I can call
Sure.
it Adobe or
Yeah.
LeedsSource, or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, it's just up to me as an admin to give it a name.
So this makes me think quite a bit about, like shadow IT, right? A lot of people with connected apps, and this is not just a Salesforce thing. This is all, in Google and Microsoft and these, other enterprise app environments. One day, if today, let's say you know, I'm not a system admin, but I can install or access connected apps. If I don't have this permission in the future, I can't. So what makes me think is number one is this probably puts an end to a lot of shadow IT. But then the question is that there's good and bad, I think, with that. I think it's obviously more secure, but is it is it a problem for businesses, for people who the one that came to mind to me was you get the little badge scanner at a conference, and that's a connected app, and it shoots leads into my environment. And I'm a sales rep, and I'm on the floor that day I'm going to Dreamforce, right? And I'm
Yeah.
scanning badges, and I don't have this permission, and I always was able to to do the badge scanner app, and now I can't connect, and I've got to put in an IT ticket and wait 3 weeks, but then it's too late. So it seems like it's going to really put a roadblock on the shadow IT space. Or do you think it could go the other way where it's just a temporary block and everybody's just going to have this permission just to remove the roadblock?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, I don't have the crystal ball to tell, but
Yeah.
if I look back in history and we look at like, some of the orgs I looked at this year, like, you have like 70 admins and, like who in earth needs 70 admin accounts? Or
Yeah.
we have, when,
70 admins out of 80 users.
right.
Yeah.
Really great best practice.
Yeah.
But like in or I think the one interesting insight from Valo's customers beginning of this year is actually that we saw thousands of users that have permissions to manage users who have never managed users this year.
Okay.
So I think the when we come to these permission side of the conversation, I think it's like a whole new conversation for
Yeah.
organizations to have that what do you need to do your job? And I think the having that permission for managing or installing apps is a good one. I think
Yeah.
it kind of adds into that capabilities. To me, you're that sales rep, you go to the conference, you absolutely need to have that permission. But then how do we validate that you're installing good apps, and how does the admin kind of like don't doesn't block business but enables business, enables
Mhm.
growth, but has the tools to be able then to ensure that you don't install the bad one who's sending data to, who knows where.
Yeah. And I just put this on the screen. It looks like from Salesforce. They're on a mission to start educating more around this. And, I think the education's great, but we just need really, we need the ability to manage this at scale. I mean, when you're doing this for a 20-person company, that's one thing. When you have 1,000 employees or even hundreds, um, I think getting tooling like the types of stuff that you're working on at Valo is so critical to seeing this stuff like from way, way, way out here, without hiring these huge teams to go in and identify piece by piece by piece who can do what. You really need to be able to bubble this stuff up. I mean, it seems like you guys have been, really, really working hard on that, and it couldn't be more important than any time than now. Like now, it's this stuff. These attacks are really bringing this to the surface, and obviously, it's not great for people who are under attack, but it's
Mhm.
only a matter of time for all of us. So we need these tools.
Yeah, I think also like if we think about the slide I think is from the Salesforce webinar from Wednesday from the
Uh-huh.
critical incident
Yeah.
center. So Salesforce is taking this now very seriously,
Right.
kind of like as they should, and and I won't get into kind of the details when I was like PMing at Salesforce,
Yeah.
and what kind of incidents we saw, but um, I think unfortunately now, because of AI, and also the fact that like Salesforce is a very attractive target, we just haven't really known about these
Right.
situations before in the same way. The fact that now I think organizations are publicly talking about it, there's more awareness to the topic. I guess the good and the bad is the good is that like getting more breaches results into action and results into better security. The bad news, of course, for all you admins and architects out there, there's work ahead. You got to go back into the into the grind. We got to look into permissions. We got to look into these apps, but they are incredible automations that we already started working on last year and launched in Dreamforce. So we've
Yeah.
been at business for like what 11 months now, with a solution on this.
And those are startup months, so we know those are like years.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we know what that's like.
Yeah.
So, and I was just talking, of course, to your CTO, Mika, the other day, and he loves thinking so deeply about, all these different attack vectors into Salesforce. How could we get in and trick people to? Because he's trying to think like the attacker, and he loves brainstorming about this stuff. So I know, you guys are hard at work, like trying to be two steps ahead. And clearly you were, because you guys had the solution that basically handles this exact situation before it even happened. And now it's like, it's coming to the surface through the news and through Salesforce themselves. And it's so critical that people understand, like, this stuff is very real. Salesforce is not in a little bubble. I know it's not AWS. I know it's not Azure. You're not dealing at the infrastructure level, but you're dealing with people, as an attack vector for sure, and the technologies that they have access to.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are
100%.
deep in it.
Totally. Yeah, I
uh,
think like I think the mindset is definitely a different one because in security like Mika was the CTO for F-Secure. He's behind also the cloud protection app and the antivirus scanning in Salesforce
right.
ecosystem, and number of other threat vectors. Um, but like when we think about now the connected fabric and ultimately what users can do, that I think as the cornerstone of Salesforce. If what's the permission model, what access you have, whether you're a human user, app,
Right.
or an AI agent. So
Right. Right.
totally. So I think with the kind of concluding on some of the ways that now organizations can prevent this situation, you know, when you're using a Valo, and actually I have quite a lot of thank yous on my LinkedIn inbox and email from our customers and partners who are now secured by Valo in these scenarios because they are getting automatic notifications and alerts when any new
That's right.
tool gets connected. So whether or not you have now that new permission, you can install apps. The admins are getting automatic listings and categorizations of what type of app they use, where they're connecting from. And there's another kind of a process change that previously kind of been kind of considered an alternative is this API access control feature where you can connect and contact Salesforce support to turn on this feature which is kind of like global switch for the org to have all connected apps require approval. I think it
Ah,
comes with a little performance hit, and that's why it's behind this
I
kind of a
see.
heavy hand switch. And now with the permission model, I think Salesforce is making it more granular and and maybe moving away from the API access control feature. It wasn't really widely discussed, but
Yeah,
I would offer organizations who want to discuss this model, what fits for them, to reach out, check out the solution. Valo's solution itself performs an analysis, and it can kind of help organizations to ensure they have the right fit for the security. And then on the third model, it's exactly that, like, you want to have the rebuilding and the best practice granular permissions. And now, whether this is a connected app or a user or any kind of organization, I think it's important for them to evaluate privileges of individual accesses so that they are not broad. And then that really relates to the hackers mindset of, like, if they do have access to a connected app that has admin privileges, or they come through the account, what else they can do? They can create other accounts, they can kick off other admins, they can turn off
that's
backups, they
right.
can exfiltrate
Absolutely.
data, and they can then, what actually happened in this case, they actually extort money, like you can see on the SOC Radar website. They're
Right.
asking Mark Benioff to give them Bitcoin before they release
I'm
90
sure.
or
I'm sure he's going to do that.
It'd be surprising how many big companies actually pay ransoms, but
I'm
like
sure they do.
I don't
I'm
know
sure
the
they do.
Salesforce
I
policy.
don't. uh, um, well, I don't know if it's okay with you, but we're kind of wrapping up, but I think the app is so cool. I don't want to go into a full demo, but would it be okay if I just showed my installation of Valo on screen so people can just kind of see the network
I would
connections?
love that. Yeah, I would love to
Okay.
hear kind of your thoughts on, like, and what a great use case of the intern. Also, I'm just curious on, like,
I won't
what
name
else we
names, but and it wasn't their fault. Of course, it falls on me as the admin, and it was a connected app. It was completely within the realm of what I asked them. They had access to the data because they were, it was a marketing campaign, and they needed access to all the leads. And I asked them to create do some segmentation. And so let me share my Valo screen, and I'm not going to go into a full demo mode here. So don't worry, everybody. This isn't like a deep dive demo, but it's just, I think, a really unique. You usually don't see these types of screens unless you're doing um, like firewall network security types of uh, applications. But I happen to have three Salesforce environments installed into Valo, and what's cool is I can see all three of them and their common connection. So, if somebody was able to gain access to one, we can see, and there's, hey, look, there's Valo as a connected app right there in the middle with its own little logo. But we can see all of these connections, and I know I'm zoomed out a bit, but look at all of this stuff. And some of it makes perfect sense to me. And then some I go, oh, I should probably get rid of that. Haven't used that in a year. Whoop. And I just got, it looks like I've been logged out for too long. I'll pop right back in. Um, but we have this
Yeah,
connection graph, and
the
this is where I was.
the orange connections are kind of the inbound integrations, and then the blue ones are outbound. So if you hover over the org
Oh,
logo, you're
yeah.
going to see the direction of the
Oh,
data.
yeah, look at that. I actually, you know what? I never noticed that until just now. So I just learned
Yeah,
something here.
helps to visualize. We humans, like, visually think, and
Yeah.
maybe from an architecture point of view, you see these data points. And
Yeah, and I can just drag it around. It's kind of fun interactive screen, and it's just really good for exploring and um, just really getting a good idea of what's going on, especially at multiple orgs. And of course, I know you can go into, probably a more useful view. You have the list views of this, um, and you have some layering and some other tools. And I know we could deep dive into all of this stuff, but I'm going to let people reach out to you and go to the App Exchange and find the stuff on their own. I'm not going to go into the deep dive demo, but it's such a cool app, and it really addresses so many of these security concerns before the public knows about them. So I think we should keep trying to get stuff like this out there, because it's only a matter of time. There's that quote, I always forget who says this, but it's not. There's those who have been hacked and those who have not been hacked yet, right? Those are the only two groups. Nobody's not going to be attacked. So it's just a matter of being prepared and being protected.
Absolutely. Thank you for being a great partner, Ari.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure talking about Salesforce security with you and touching on valuable topics and looking forward for new talks. I think we're going to be posting this. So I would love to hear from the audience what you think, and if you have any other suggestions or comments and questions. We're going to put our LinkedIn information also below, so you can kind of connect with us. And
Yep.
if you need any support to go through this big journey, and we're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be at Dreamforce. I'll be at Dreamforce, so
That's
we can all meet up. Anybody out there who's listening. And of course, I know you've always got something fun planned in San Francisco because that's your hometown. So it'll be fun. We'll see you in October.
See you in October. Thanks, Ari.
All right. Take care.
Bye.